Hello, hello, hello. I don't even know if this is working. Okay. Hello? Riley? Can you guys hear me? Can you see me? Can you hear me? It's my first time going live on YouTube. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, you can hear me. Okay, it's working. I'm so nervous. I don't know why I'm nervous here. Yeah, we are here. We are here. I got the chat up. I have the video. Okay, how's everyone's doing? Hi, guys. I thought this would be like a little bit more fun and interactive since last night's court dumping was so wild. So instead of just like filming it, I thought, you know what? Let's just do a little live so I can get everyone's opinions and we can all talk about it. How's everyone doing? Hello, hello, hello. Okay, so I've never done the live, so I'm gonna try to jump right in, share the screens. I kind of have all the files ready, and Judge Lyman is actually waiting to hear back from all the parties at 4:30, so it's coming up. We'll see if anyone gets to file or if we get to see it. But yeah, there's been a lot going on. It was crazy town last night in the court filings. Where did the shit go? There we go. Okay, thank you. Yeah, let me know. Guide me through it. So excited to be here. I'm going to be doing more lives. I just hadn't had the time to like set up the system. And as you can tell, I'm using like a separate camera than I usually use. So I'm just trying to get it all together as I go. But yeah, this is very exciting times. I mean, Wayfarer is definitely finally fighting back. The judgment on pleadings is wild, but what I thought was even more wild are the emails back and forth between Ezra Hudson, which is Blake Lively's lawyer, and Aline Garofalo, which is the Wayfarer lawyers, because Aline was like, they're not playing around with Blake Lively anymore. It really seems like she's been, number one, sabotaging the depositions, and she just went to the judge and was crying a whole bunch of stuff. Like, I've never, and like, everything kind of is like a huge thing when it comes to Blake Lively always running to the courts. And now she really wants to fight to always be the first one to depose anyone at the depositions, even if it's not her deposition. And I've seen a lot of lawyers now talk on that and say, like, never in their life have they ever saw that and experienced that. Like, usually the lawyers whose deposition it is gets to depose them first. And then if there's time left over, the other counsels who are there get to do it. And Blake Lively is now trying to get the judge to rule on her deposing first. It's just like super mayhem. And yeah, Aline was not having it. Aline was so spicy in the email. So I think first what we should do is just go over that one, Blake Lively's emergency relief for deposition, which is so wild, and the emails, because the emails just kept going. Like, I was reading them late last night and I'm like, wow, it just keeps going like more spicy and spicy and spicy. And then finally Aline Garofalo was like, no, I'm done. Your client is a princess and she's not going to get special treatment over here, okay? It seems like the Wayfarer were again bending to all of Blake's needs, and you know, they were trying to play and trying to give her everything, and then finally they were like, you know what, everything else that we agreed to, yeah, we're taking it back. We're not going to give you nothing, okay? So it was pretty exciting. Also, I am still feeling like a little bit congested, so if I do have to cough, I'll try to cough over here, okay? Yeah, Blake is not special, okay? So let me try and pull up that one file, and then we'll get right into it. Let me see if I can do it on live, guys. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited everyone's here too. Okay, let's see, something crazy just happened to my screen. I have it here, relief for Blake Lively. To cough, cut the mic. Good call, thank you. Okay, that should work. Yeah, okay. So this here is the first one from, this is Blake Lively's emergency meeting that she wants to have with the judge. She's asking for emergency relief. This was filed from Ezra Hudson. And I'll just say, like, totally, I've always said that it's kind of like a client issue. And it definitely seems like still a very much client issue when it comes to Blake Lively. I'm also thinking that they are sweating it. I don't think they still have anything yet. I think that they are right now, they're fighting for the most silliest to me, like, kind of things. And yeah, let's just see what this letter is, because to me, I think it's a little bit bonkers. But it just says that Blake Lively reluctantly, respectfully, and urgently requests that the court enter an order holding that Miss Lively has the right to begin the questioning of Mr. Josh Greenstein at his deposition. So it is set for the 30th. I guess they went back and forth from the 30th to the 29th. And now it is set for the 30th. And it was originally set at 10 a.m. They all agreed from 10 a.m. to move it to 9 a.m. But now Blake Lively wants it pushed back to 8 a.m. And the Wayfarer people are saying, no, we already moved it to 9 a.m. We're not going to meet at 8 a.m. kind of thing. Okay. Hello. Thanks for popping in. Thanks, everyone. So basically, they're saying that, and Mr. Greenstein is all on board for it to come at 8 a.m. and he only has until 4:30. He has a hard cutout at 4:30. And this is going to be happening in LA, I believe, on the West Coast. Okay. So it's hilarious. But they're basically asking the judge, okay, to ensure that Blake Lively gets to depose them first. But Blake Lively only doesn't want to depose him first. She's saying she wants to be first for all depositions. And her reasoning is very, very silly, in my opinion, of course. Miss Lively shall have 4 hours to question Mr. Greenstein, including no more than 30 minutes of breaks if requested by the court reporter, videographer, or deponent. Neither the deponent nor his counsel nor Miss Lively oppose an 8 a.m. start time or the proposals regarding examination time or breaks. But one of the defendant's many attorneys has refused to agree to start the deposition an hour before scheduled due to an unspecified conflict. But what they forgot to mention is they already put it earlier. Like, it's in the emails that it was supposed to be at 10 a.m., then they moved it to 9. Now they want to move it to 8, and the Wayfarer people are like, no, we're done with you. Well, I can't wait to get to the emails, guys. Aline was like, oh my gosh. So, and I understand, because I would be like going nuts trying to deal with Blake Lively. Everything to them is like this extreme act of like war almost. And it's like, really? Okay. So without an 8 a.m. start time, there is a significant, perhaps inevitable risk that one or both of the noticing parties will have to leave Mr. Greenstein's deposition open to complete on another day. An 8 a.m. start time would provide plaintiff's counsel with a 4-hour window to achieve the allotted 3.5 hours on the record testimony, which would be followed by a 30-minute lunch and a 4-hour window of time during the defendant's counsel can question the witness for their 3.5 hours of testimony. But the thing is like the Wayfarer, it's their deposition. They serviced the subpoena. They called for this deposition. So they obviously should go first and get as much time as they need to for their own deposition that they serviced. And then the other counsel can use the remaining on the condition that it would be limited to a 3-hour window from 9 till 12, notwithstanding the agreement that each party receives 3.5 hours of on-the-record testimony pursuant to the federal rules. The Wayfarer defendants then reneged on that agreement after Ms. Lively issued an updated notice of subpoena reflecting an 8 a.m. start time in response to the following request from counsel. So the client or the person, Mr. Greenstein, is asking to start at 8. He doesn't want to come a second day. And also he wants to get out of there immediately at 4:30. These people are so busy that like it would be impossible to make it for a second day. He needs to be out of there for some reason right at 4:30, okay? Oh, don't get me started on Nick Shapiro, the B613 guy. That guy is evil. Undersigned counsel tried earnestly and repeatedly to avoid seeking relief from the court as set forth in Exhibit A, which we will get to, and regrets the need to involve the court. Oh, they do. Oh, we regret to involve the court in this matter, but the conduct of counsel for the Wayfarer defendants have left them with no other choice. Miss Lively asked the court to enter an order holding that Miss Lively, as the plaintiff, is entitled to be the first examiner in all depositions that are duly noticed at trial testimony. What? Like, why? Why do you get to be the first one? Like, already I think, oh my gosh, why? That is so wild to me. Like, she wants not only in this deposition, but in all depositions, okay? She wants to be the first one. You're already on the bias train. Yeah, I mean, I'm not getting my hopes up that Judge Lyman is going to be like, okay, yeah, Blake, you can have it. Here you go, sweetheart. You want to be first in everything? Here you go. But we'll see. He did ask that they have responses in today by 4:30, and then he's going to rule on it. So I don't know what that means, okay? But I'm not holding out on Judge Lyman here, okay? Many of these depositions, including that of Mr. Greenstein, to be conducted in California, likely will serve as trial testimony, right? Okay, so what they're saying is because in the trial in front of the jury, Blake Lively would go first. So they should be able to go first at depositions. But this isn't a trial. And she's saying it risks creating jury confusion. Okay, jury confusion. This is a deposition. This has nothing to do with the jury that's going to be selected, that they're going to have in the courtrooms. It's crazy. Yeah, Samantha, you're right. That is crazy, okay? So they're saying because in a I can't even explain it properly because it's so nuts. And Wayfarer kept asking her, like, what law are you following? Like, what says this? Like, it's kind of nuts. But it risks creating jury confusion to have the Wayfarer defendants begin questioning her testimony that Miss Lively will present as part of the case in chief. Oh, I should probably be recording this. Oh, just hit record. For example, the order of questioning a witness would materially influence how the jury perceives that witness. If the first jury hears video excerpts of Miss Lively's counsel asking questions that reference earlier question posed by counsel of the Wayfarer defendants, they will lack foundation to properly contextualize that testimony. If Miss Lively's counsel then plays the Wayfarer defendants' original questions to establish that missing foundation, those foundational questions will have already been framed by the Wayfarer defendants, further distorting the jury's perception of that witness. Yeah, that's how trials work. This is a deposition. Like, we've all, I'm sure, watched trials and have followed, and you know how courts work. But this is a deposition, so what the jury is going to think and how it's done in court, I don't think is the way it should be followed in depositions. And I've also heard lawyers say in all of their careers, they have never had the plaintiff have the right to go first, especially if the deposition is being serviced by the defendants. Then the defendants go first. It's their deposition. That's just the way it works, okay? The court should exercise its authority to control the ordering of witness examination to ensure fairness and create an effective mechanism for the determination of the truth. What's the truth, I wonder? The Wayfarer defendants' position that they are entitled to be the first to question simply because they were the first to notice certain depositions is contrary to law. While it was once well settled that proprietary in depositions went to the party first serving a notice of examination absent compelling reasons to the contrary, and then they put in this rule that I guess was abolished in 1970. Who knows? Because Elaine Garofalo was even like, no. For the reasons explained herein, Miss Lively respectfully requests that the court order the deposition of Mr. Greenstein to begin at 8 a.m. sharp, meaning testimony commences at the time, and enter an order holding that plaintiff shall be the first to question Mr. Greenstein and shall have 4 hours to question him, including 30 minutes of breaks if requested. Then in the footnote, it says, Miss Lively's counsel has made good faith efforts to meet and confer with the Wayfarer Defendants Counsel in accordance with the court's individual practices. Okay, and then it says, as illustrated in Exhibit A. I don't think that they were very polite in their meet and confers, which we'll get to, but what do y'all think about this? To me, this just seems like Blake Lively being like, please, daddy, please, judge, Mr. Lyman, please, can you make sure? And what difference is it to her to go first? I think she wants to go first so that she can eat up all the time in the deposition, because she doesn't want none of these people being deposed already. I think over 25 people were already deposed in September, and now we're getting to the thick of it. The managers, the Sony reps, the big guys at the top. You know what I'm saying? I just think it's, when I was reading this last night, I was like, have you no shame, Blake Lively? Have you, like, lost it? This to me just screams like crybaby tantrum. In my opinion. What do y'all think about that? Yeah, good faith effort and respect are not. Yeah, they just don't work out. And we'll see the Exhibit A right now, and then we'll get into the Wayfarer shocker of the day, but everything that we've been waiting for. This is the email chain. Now it is a little bit strange. We're gonna have to like start at the bottom. I'm gonna be scrolling because they're actually not in order yesterday when I was looking at the timestamps. They're kind of like all over the place, which is strange because usually it starts at the bottom and goes from the top from all the email chains, but not here, okay? Nothing's easy when it comes to Miss Blake Lively. Yeah, they're supposed to have responses in today at 4:30 for the judge so that he can rule on this, and we'll see, but I'm not sure if they'll be uploaded straight away or if it'll be a little bit later. But you know what? Let me check it because I have the court right now. So nothing's been filed yet, so we'll see. But these lawyers are making money this weekend. I mean, Blake Lively's counsel is just at this point, I can't even imagine how much money they've made off Blake and Ryan at this point. Probably hundreds of millions of dollars, like this case is costing them, and it's nuts. I think it's insane. Let me see if I can make the email chain just a little bigger. Let's see if that works here. Okay, so the first email is from Miss Aline Garofalo. So this was on Thursday, September 25th at 8:37 p.m. And what's funny is all of this was happening at the same time as Van Zandt. So not only are the Wayfarer people dealing with the craziness of Van Zandt serving their objections, saying they object to every single one, that they're not going to talk about anything past September 20 or before September 27th, 2024. But then in the court saying, oh, no, it's fine. Like, we didn't really object to anything. And it's like, well, actually, in your objections, you objected to every single freaking thing. So it's like these games that they're playing is so crazy. But now they have it on record from Van Zandt that they're like, it's even in the footnote. No, we won't object. We'll send someone. We'll talk about it. Okay. Hi, Nicole. Yes, I'm live. I am live. I'm trying to get used to this whole like live thing so I can do it a little bit more often. So they're just saying here, Aline, there's just going back and forth. Okay, so in this first one, this was sent by Aline saying, as the noticing parties, we have 3.5 hours. Let me fix this. We have 3.5 hours after which plaintiff may commence her examination pursuant to the cross notice. And then it was written here, counsel, oh, this is where it starts. From Blake Lively's camp. In advance of Mr. Greenstein's deposition on Tuesday, September 30th, we write to confirm that Miss Lively and the Wayfarer defendants will split the time equally, with Miss Lively, the plaintiff, commencing the questioning. Then she writes, as the noticing parties, we have 3.5 hours, after which plaintiff may commence her examination pursuant to the cross notion. Right, it's their deposition again. Yeah, exactly, Riley. They wanted Van Zandt on the record. I think they wanted it in front of the courts just to be like, told we have it here. So, if they go back on it or if they try to fluff around inside of the deposition, they can refer back to the courts, okay? It's there right now. They have them kind of in a corner. And what great news on the first ever Van Zandt Day, right? Today, 1 year ago, this is how it all started with Stephanie motherfucking Jones, Leslie Sloan, Blake Lively, and Ryan Reynolds being the most corrupt, shady, bitter, revengeful people ever. So then here you have Stephanie. This is coming from Blake Lively's camp, and she writes back to Aline, Miss Lively is the plaintiff and has the right to begin questioning just like she will at trial. This deposition is trial testimony and must proceed as such. It will be confusing to a jury if the questioning differs from in-court testimony. But, like, the jury's not in the deposition room. Like, does anyone else think this argument's a little wacko-nacko? Okay, so the jury hasn't been selected yet, so they can't get confused about what happens in the deposition. There's no jury there. So, that's their only argument. It will be confusing to a jury if the questioning differs from in-court testimony. We intend to limit or omit all breaks to complete our questioning prior to a lunch break. We intend to seek relief from the court on the ordering issue if you do not confirm by 3 p.m. that Miss Lively will question Mr. Greenstein first. Okay. You can, I don't know why it's such a big deal to them. So that was the email at 6:16 a.m. Dang, these people up early sending these kind of crazy emails at 6 o'clock. If I woke up and I saw that email, I would be like, I'm going to tell you. Okay. So then Aline answers back at 3:04 p.m. and says, the notice was followed by plaintiff's cross notion nearly a month later on July 17th, 2025. It has been the practice by mutual agreement that the noticing party's examination precede the examination of the cross-noticing party. Mr. Greenstein's counsel has now advised that Mr. Greenstein is only available until 4:30 on Tuesday, September 30th, the date set for Mr. Green's deposition, and the deposition cutoff date set by the court. Although Mr. Greenstein's counsel has represented that he will produce Mr. Greenstein on a second date to complete the full 7 hours, as you know, scheduling Mr. Greenstein's first deposition date was, to say the least, challenging, and we cannot assume that we will have the opportunity to have Mr. Greenstein appear a second time after the deposition cutoff date, which is September 30th, except for in the cases of Brian Freeman, Jamie Heath, Justin Baldoni, as well Jed Wallace, and now there's one other guy. I forget his name, but he also has like a little bit of an extension too. This week, Miss Lively's counsel requested that plaintiff be permitted to examine third-party witness blank first. So who do y'all think this is? It's a very short name. I don't know who it is. It could be Taylor. Could be Isabella. I don't know, but it's a girl. Even though the Wayfarer parties first noticed her deposition, we graciously agreed only to be pressured, and then look, it's so blank. I wonder what's going on, but obviously Blake Lively's counsel is doing some shady things over here, okay? But I want to know who this woman was that was deposed and what was the pressuring. Plaintiff not only used nearly her entire 3.5 hours of questioning, but delayed the deposition by returning late from breaks, including the lunch break, leaving the Wayfarer parties to race through their portion of the examination. So Blake Lively's over here not only wanting to go first, but also wanting to sabotage the depositions. Ooh, the doc is out. Oh my gosh. Okay, we got to pull it up right after. We cannot be in a position where we agree that plaintiff will take precedence and then run us off the clock. leaving us unable to thoroughly examine Mr. Greenstein. It is unclear why plaintiff is demanding preference, other than the claim that as plaintiff, Miss Lively presents her case first at trial and therefore should be the first to examine witness at deposition. The reason for this rule at trial is obvious. The plaintiff bears the burden of proof, and if plaintiff fails to meet that burden, a defendant need not present any case at all. If you have any authority for the bizarre notion that this rule or practice applies in deposition, please provide it. In the meantime, we will agree to accommodate your request on the following conditions to avoid another situation where our ability to depose a witness we noticed first is compromised. Plaintiff's counsel will begin their examination at 9 a.m., the time currently set for the deposition. Plaintiff will have a hard stop at noon, regardless of the number or length of breaks or time on the record. There will be a 30 or 40-minute lunch break, and the Wayfarer parties will have the remainder of the day until 4:30 for their examination of Mr. Greenstein. It could be Alex Sachs too. We don't know. We don't know who it is. But this is just like, imagine having to explain the law and how depositions work to the opposing counsel because they're being absolute tyrants. That was at 3:04. Then they come back with this huge email to Aline, okay, where we disagree with the majority of your characterization in your email. The witness has agreed to begin deposition at 8 a.m. We ask all counsel to arrive and for the court reporter and videographer to have access to the room with sufficient time that the deposition begins exactly at 8 a.m. We reserve the right to go past noon by any amount of time after 8 a.m. when the deposition commences. So not only do they want to go first, but they're literally saying, well, you know what? We said 3.5 hours, but we have the right to go past the hours if we need to. Then you're not going to go first because it's their deposition. So you're going to eat up all the time and leave them with what? Like right away after the first thing, I would be like, no, thank you. You're done. Bye. I'm out of here. Like, what are you talking about? They're already sharing the deposition in the hours, you know? Then they write, we do not intend to take any breaks between 8 to noon unless urgent. Unless, of course, the reporter or videographer, they have to do it. Then they say, other parties, the deposition will remain in the room until we have finished our questioning. So it's like I think they want to go first because they just want to eat up all the time. And Sony representatives are going to be there as well, which is pretty interesting. The Wayfarer parties will have from 12:30 to 4:30 for their questioning, subject to the same conditions as described as 1 and 2. And then we will reserve the right to reserve time to re-question Mr. Greenstein after the Wayfarer parties complete their 3.5 hours of questioning and subject to the conditions in 1 and 2, that the Wayfarer parties do not cause any delays in the schedule such that Miss Lively would be deprived of time if she chooses to reserve time. Please confirm agreement by 4:30 today to all of the above so that Miss Lively can seek relief from the court if necessary. Wow. If Sony does not agree to the above proposal, please identify the precise reason for Mr. Greenstein's unavailability after 4:30. Blah, 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 blah. Miss Lively continues to reserve the right to keep the deposition open if she is unable to obtain 3.5 hours of deposition timing. Finally, we do not think it's worth pointing out that the Wayfarer party's insistence that they are entitled to begin examination simply because they were first to notice certain depositions is contrary to law. And then they put in that same law that I guess was abolished. And I'm sure the judge is going to be like, yeah, it's okay, Blake. You can do it. Do whatever you want. You know, it's fine. Yeah, they're demanding this, but I think, well, because they put it into the court, the judge is going to have to decide, which is so crazy to even have to run to the judge, be like, please, can you say the deposition starts at 8, judge? And please, can you say that I go first? I just think it's so nuts. So Aline Garofalo comes back and she just writes, she's still being a little bit cordial here. I think this is the one where she's a little bit cordial. Yeah, before she just kind of snapped. Have you ever seen that show Snapped, where she just like everything's normal until one day you're just like, no. As counsel has been informed, the deposition was noticed for 10 a.m., but we have agreed to start at 9 a.m. We will be ready to commence the deposition at 9 a.m. We will not insist on breaks during Lively's questioning, on the conditions that Lively agree not to request breaks during our examination. However, breaks are generally only by request of the deponent and or court reporter. Your agreement or ours not take breaks meaningless. We will agree to begin our examination at 12:30, regardless of the number of durations or breaks requested by the deponent or court reporter. They're saying, look, if you guys take a bunch of breaks and stuff during your 3.5 hours, too bad. We're starting at 12:30, okay? We do not object to plaintiff reserving time for additional questioning after the Wayfarer parties have completed their 3.5 hours of examination time. We again, accommodating your highly unusual request that plaintiff's examination precede defendants as the noticing party on the condition that you agree to the foregoing. Absent your agreement, we will begin our examination of Mr. Greenstein at 9 a.m., an hour earlier than the noticed time. Please confirm your assent. There will be no future negotiations. This agreement applies to Mr. Greenstein's deposition only and is not to be construed as a general agreement that Miss Lively has a right to begin every examination, no matter who noticed the deposition. I am still waiting for a citation to authority that supports your contention that a plaintiff takes precedence at depositions because plaintiff's case in chief is presently presented to the jury first. So I feel like here, Eileen's starting to, the Wayfarer people are starting to get a little bit, they're not having a good time. So then they write back to Eileen. We will not agree to giving the Wayfarer parties 4 hours further questioning while we receive only 3, less than our agreed upon time. You have no legal basis to justify demanding unequal time, and we do not think the court will find otherwise. We will begin questioning the witness at 8 a.m. as the witness in Sony's counsel has agreed to appear at that time. Surely, this is where I'm like, the sassiness. Surely someone on Wayfarer's large team of attorneys, multiple of whom attend every deposition, can appear to the deposition at that time. If you do not agree to begin at 8 a.m., we will be seeking relief from the court. Okay. It's so funny because didn't Blake Lively have 8 lawyers go to her deposition and then was like, oh, you guys leaked, the Wayfarer people leaked my fashion and leaked what I was wearing and leaked how many lawyers I had. So she's pretty much, Lively's putting her foot down. And then we get to, there's another time where it's just like, okay, so this is an email that was presented by Mr. Greenstein's people, and they're saying, hey, we only have from 8 o'clock to 4:30, so y'all need to figure it out. And then it says that the questioning should begin sharply at 8 a.m. That's from, again, Lively's people to the Wayfarer people. And then the last email, I think, is here. And this is from Elaine Garofalo back. And this is the last communications before it went to the court. And it says, sorry for the inconvenience, but below has a few typos correctly for clarity. Despite your last minute machinations and increasingly militant demands, defendants first noticed Tuesday's deposition for 9 a.m., and defendants' counsel will arrive promptly at 9 a.m. Further, in light of plaintiff's utter lack of courtesy and civility, we do not agree that plaintiff's examination will proceed first. We will begin our examination of Mr. Greenstein as properly noticed at 9 a.m. We will, of course, move to strike any testimony taken prior to 9 a.m. and any testimony elicited by plaintiff's counsel before the completion of defendant's 3.5 hours of examination. On a final note, the escalating demands and complaints of plaintiff's counsel, including that our offices do not meet their standards, and thus all depositions must occur in the offices of plaintiff's counsel, unrelenting refusal, agree to even the most reasonable requests by defendant's counsel, and overall efforts to intimidate and bully defendants are, to put it mildly, improper. We understand that Miss Lively believes she is entitled to privileges and considerations not available to ordinary litigants, and that her counsel is merely following orders. That's where I'm like, dang, Aline, because they're basically saying you have a client issue. Your client, Blake Lively, thinks that she's so entitled to all of these privileges, all of these demands, all of this stuff. And we know that you're just following orders and collecting that money. Okay? We already know. Okay? But that is no excuse. I am still waiting for authority for that absurd notion that Miss Lively, as a plaintiff, is entitled to begin all cross-notice depositions. I look forward to seeing you at 9 a.m. on Tuesday. This email is like a lot more professional than I would have been putting it, okay? But it's so good, and they're calling it out exactly how they see it. Like, you have a client issue. Blake Lively thinks that she's the queen. She thinks that she can demand all these things. And nah, we're not going to do it no more, and we're taking back everything that we agreed to. Yeah, I mean, Blake Lively at this point has shown her entitlement, so, you know, how can she not? I'm just going to go check now real quick on Court Finder and see if I can get, if it was filed, if I can get it. So we do have a letter response addressed to the judge, and this is from Aline Garofalo. Let me just download this real quick. It's very short, 2 pages. Let me see. And this was filed. When was it filed? I want the time. 4:36 p.m. So the date filed, it doesn't have a date filed, but it says it was uploaded at 4:36 p.m. So I hope they got it to the judge earlier than that, because he said anything after 4:30, I'm not seeing it. The judge put in an order this morning saying he's taking everything under advisement for the deposition scheduling. Responsive papers due September 27th at 4:30 p.m. Any late responses will be disregarded. Now, I don't see any response here from the Lively people so far, so that's very interesting. But this is the one from Wayfarer. Yeah, Lena, that email from Elaine, like, last night I was like laying in bed reading it, like, clock it, girl. Okay, Aline. Okay, let's do it. It's just like so spicy in the most respectful way, but calling out exactly what's happening lawyer to lawyer. Like, we know your client is doing all of this, but we're not having it anymore. We're not having her, you know, first of all, sabotage depositions, but also try to silence us, bully us, demand all of these things. No, it's no excuse anymore, and we're done with it. Yeah, it's very interesting if the clerk did post it late. I mean, 6 minutes though, but I don't see nothing from Lively's people. And right now it's 4:52. So that's like we're talking about almost 30 minutes. Yeah, you can definitely tell Elaine is just like, they're over it. And I think they're totally over it. And it makes sense because now that they filed for, you know, a little bit of some things being dismissed, which we'll get into. We'll see. Okay, so this is just filed. Obviously haven't read it yet. Let's just read everything line by line. So she's just on fire. I love her writing. I think her and Kevin Fritz are my favorite lawyers in this entire case. Just because Brian Freeman hasn't been writing nothing. I mean, he's now in the thing. So, but also, and I do also love Jed Wallace's lawyer. Those 3 are probably my favorite. I really, really don't like Michael Gottlieb and Ezra Hudson. I just think they're a little bit snarky, snooty, but it represents their client, so you know what I mean. Hi, Closet Ghost. It is my first live, so we'll see what happens after this. Josh Greenstein is a former executive involved in overseeing production of the film It Ends With Us, which is the subject of this litigation. The Wayfarer defendants have no reason to believe that Mr. Greenstein may have communicated with Blake Lively during the filming of It Ends With Us concerning her complaints about the production and Wayfarer, including the pace of the filming, the scope of her role in rewriting the script and editing the film, her insistence that her cut of the film, rather than the director's, be released, even though Miss Lively did not test as well, and Miss Lively's contemporaneous threats not to complete the film or participate in its marketing unless Sony and the Wayfarer defendants ceded to her demands. Right away. Yeah. So, Mr. Josh Greenstein, did you give Blake Lively the okay to take over the movie? Did you give her the okay to rewrite films? Because she's saying in her CRD, her amended and her second amended, she said she just did what Sony said. She released Sony's cut of the movie, right? Already, that first sentence, I'm like, oh, okay. Where am I? I gotta highlight it here so I can keep on track. Ms. Lively may also have raised concerns with Mr. Greenstein over complaints of mistreatment on the set, which is at the heart of her claims. Is it at the heart of her complaints? Because how many times have you guys heard Blake Lively fighting for her violations and being repeatedly SH'd? Or has it mostly been about the smear campaign and her reputation, which is now 1 million times worse? The Wayfarer defendants understand that Mr. Greenstein made the decision to release Miss Lively's cut of the film. The Wayfarer defendants understand that Mr. Greenstein made the decision to release Miss Lively's cut of the film. Interesting. Mr. Greenstein, I think we're going to have a problem. Because obviously Justin Baldoni was the freaking director. Everyone knows in film, me especially, when you produce a film, the director, even just when I show up to act, I never know how the film's going to turn out. I never know how my scenes are going to turn out. I don't even know if I'm going to make the final cut. There's been some times where I'm like, dang, they cut that whole scene. They just gave me that one line. I worked so hard. You don't know. Because it's like the director, and I've sat on my own films, and like my first film, Desire, here, that's in film festivals right now, it was like, I wanted to be 15 minutes. The first cut of the film was like 27 minutes. You go in, and the editor and the director, it's one of the best parts of filmmaking. So the director's cut is super, 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 like, the most important. I mean, even Scarlett Johansson talked about it at the Eleanor the Great release. She talked about how they made the movie in the editing room. Do you know? It's always like that. The Wayfarer defendants understand that Mr. Greenstein made the decision to release Miss Lively's cut of the film. The Wayfarer defendants understand that Mr. Greenstein was and is an ally of Miss Lively and will provide testimony that supports her allegations against defendants. Given these facts, Mr. Greenstein's deposition is critical to defendants' ability to prepare their defense for trial. Whoa, I gotta look at... Have you guys looked up who this guy is? Yeah, let me just see. I wonder how many projects they worked on together. And how many times they've worked with, like, Ryan Reynolds and stuff. I'm going to have to look at IMDb Pro later and, like, compare all the stuff. But they're not even calling him in to help them out. They think that he's going to be on Blake Lively's side. That's very interesting, and I wonder if it's by truth or by lies. But they think that he's going to be an ally for her. Defendants noticed Greenstein's deposition for 9 a.m. on September 30th. The date was selected after protracted negotiations with Mr. Greenstein's counsel. At Greenstein's request and for his convenience, defendants set the location at the Paramount lot where Mr. Greenstein is now employed. Greenstein's counsel recently advised that Mr. Greenstein is only available until 4:30 on September 30th, but would appear on a second date if his examination was not completed on that date. September 30th is the last day permitted for depositions by the scheduling order. On Thursday, September 25th, Stephanie Roser, Miss Lively's counsel, informed that the parties' time to depose Mr. Greenstein could be evenly split. At 6:17 a.m. on September 26th, Lively's counsel sent a curt email it was, demanding that Lively's examination go first because she is the plaintiff whose case will be presented first at trial. And then it says here in the footnote, this of course is because the plaintiff has the burden of proof. If plaintiff fails to meet that burden on any issue at trial, the defendant need not present any evidence on the issue. Right. This isn't a freaking trial. Lively's counsel made the same demand for the September deposition of Ann Carroll. Let's clock that name. Let's write that down. So we have Ann. I wonder if that's the person that they had redacted in the emails. That's so interesting. We're going to look at who Ann is a bit later, which was initially noticed by defendants. In the spirit of cooperation, defendants agreed, only to be told that Miss Carroll had an early flight to Vancouver. At the deposition, Lively's team failed to adhere to the time set for breaks, returning late to frequent periodic breaks and lunch. As a result, under pressure from Carroll's counsel, apparently being compensated by Lively. What? Oh my God. Did you guys read that? That's crazy. Pause. So she has witnesses coming in to be deposed that Lively is compensating, and she's ate up all of the time by going on breaks and lunches, and didn't tell them that this person at the deposition, Miss Ann Carroll, was having to leave early. Wow. And with the deposition cutoff looming, defendants were first forced to rush through and truncate their deposition. Greenstein is a far more important witness. Accordingly, while again acting in the spirit of cooperation, defendants agreed to allow Lively's examination to take precedence on the condition that Lively complete their examination by noon. And after a short lunch break, defendants begin their examination, with Lively having any time left after defendants' questioning and the 4:30 deadline imposed by Greenstein. This schedule should permit both sides to complete their 3.5 hours of questioning. Right, it kind of makes sense. Right? Why is she paying? Oh, thank you so much, Nicole. Why is she paying for other people's counsel? Like, who's Ann Carroll? God, I'm just so... Now I have so many thoughts running through my head. Anyway, so they're going over all of the emails that we just said, right? This schedule should permit both sides to complete. Yes, okay. Defendants explained that she was unavailable at 8 a.m. due to personal matters. And they shouldn't have to explain why. They already moved the deposition from 10 a.m. to 9 a.m. Now they want to move it from 9 a.m. to 8 a.m. Well, it's not going to work, okay? They shouldn't have to, what? You want a doctor's note? You want a medical? You want me to write it off, show you like what's going on? It's none of your business. Lively's facile response was the defendant's counsel could just send one of their multitude of other lawyers. This fails to note that in contrast to the two large firms representing Lively, defendants are represented by a small firm with fewer than 20 lawyers, and that there are 3 other depositions set in this matter on the same day. Holy camole. So many depositions. They're going to be like everywhere. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. Lively responded that her counsel would proceed their questioning at 8 a.m. with or without the presence of counsel representing. Without the presence of counsel representing counsel. Was that with Roosevelt served a new notice of deposition that subpoena resetting Greenstein's deposition for 8 a.m. Should that be permitted, testimony would be taken without the presence of anyone representing defendants, and Ms. Lively would have the opportunity to run the clock with multiple extended breaks, leaving defendants without any ability to fully depose a key witness, friending to Lively. Lively cites authority purported for the motion that a plaintiff is entitled to take precedence at deposition because plaintiff's case in chief at trial goes first. As noted, defendants have agreed that Lively can go first subject to assurances that defendants will have their full 3.5 hours. Moreover, the priority concerns addressed by Rule 26D are not present here, where the order of examination will not delay Greenstein's deposition. There is no concern that the defendants will jump the line by deposing a party first, and Lively has not presented a compelling reason, let alone a most obviously compelling reason of very priority. The amended rule is actually based on the prior Civil Rule 4 of the Southern District of New York, which provided starting 40 days after commencement in this action, unless otherwise ordered by the court, the fact that one party is taking a deposition shall not prevent another party from doing so concurrently. That is exactly what is happening here, and where the lawyers have agreed that each will have equal footing. Okay, this is it. And then they just say, the dispute should not require the court intervention. I agree. This is absolutely nuts. That the fact that they ran to the court for emergency relief over a start time of a deposition, over who goes first, they know, I think, with this guy, they're in trouble. They're in trouble. Because, well, if he's going to tell the truth. But if he didn't give Lively any permission to do all of those things, if there aren't any communications, that just proves that, she kind of went a little rogue and a little cray-cray. But either way, he is a very key witness to what happened with Sony. And I have questions, too, with Sony, because how many times, Sony, I would like to know, did you give the actress the director role in the editing room? This dispute should not have required court intervention over Ms. Lively's last-minute demand that the deposition commence at 8 a.m., when both the original noticing and Ms. Lively noticed the deposition for 9 a.m. Anyway, yeah, the 9 a.m. is more than enough time. They each get their 3.5 hours, whatever. Again, the defendants have agreed to the highly unusual request that Ms. Lively question Mr. Greenstein first, but cannot agree to the 8 a.m. start time. Accordingly, defendants respectfully request that the court deny Ms. Lively's emergency request for an early start time to Greenstein's deposition and order a 9 a.m. start time, with Ms. Lively completing examination at 12 noon to ensure that defendants have their full 3.5 hours. I can't believe this is even in front of the courts. Like, how bitter do you have to be to not agree on a freaking start time? It's, what do you guys think that the judge is going to do? Hi, Wrath. Thank you so much, Nicole. I really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you. It is Van Zandt Day, guys. Okay? It is Van Zandt Day, all started by Stephanie motherfucking Jones and Blake Lively. Yeah, she's definitely crazy. I'm just going to look up here who exactly is Ann Carroll, and I'll tell y'all, unless you guys already looked it up. Let's see. Makeup department. So, makeup department. So, it looks like it was one of her makeup artists. Oh, look at that. She also did makeup on Deadpool. And It Ends With Us. Interesting. Yeah, this whole case is wild bananas. I'm just going to see if anything now has been filed here from the Lively people. Not yet, not yet. There is a letter, a notice of appearance. So I guess what a new person's coming on in the case, but I can't get to it yet. And then it does say an order is coming for miscellaneous relief. So we'll see. We'll see when that comes out. I don't know. It just seems a little bit crazy. It's a little cray cray. Sorry guys, I just gotta wipe my nose. Yes, I totally agree, Samantha, that all of Blake Lively's witnesses are definitely buddies with Ryan Reynolds and Sony. I don't think they ever want to be pulled into this. I think it has just been so blown out of proportion that, yeah, it's very interesting. But all of Blake Lively's people are like her people versus like witnesses. I totally agree. Someone's going camping. Oh, I love camping. Yes, good. That's a really good comment, Closet Ghost. Whenever he grants the Wayfarer people something, he still always leaves the window completely open for Blake. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Or he'll like give them advice like, hey, I'll give you one more shot if you want to do this, but try doing it like this. And you're like, what? What's going on here? But yeah. Okay, just grabbing my emotional support lip gloss because we are going to get into one of the juiciest filings filed last night by the Wayfarer people. And I am so excited about this one. Let's see. Oh, this is the Exhibit A. 1 second. Let's see if that's enough. I can probably make it a bit bigger. Oh, here we go. I want to know. The notice of appearance is now available. So is the letter. Oh my gosh. Things move so quickly. Let me refresh the screen. Okay. Okay. I was going to get into the judgment of the pleading. That one's pretty long though. It's about 30 pages, but it's really good. But it's definitely just all about the law. Like they're asking to revisit all of Blake's claims. As you know, let's say everything that Blake said was true, take it as fact. It still doesn't go by the law and it needs to be dismissed. So it's been, last night was it's been a busy day, but there is a letter here from Sony. Okay, let's see what this is. And then there is a notice of appearance. Okay. Let's look at this letter from Sony. On a Saturday, the judge must be like, what are you guys doing to me? It's my weekend. I wanted to go golfing. This was just filed a letter from Sony. So let's see what's happening here. What do they have to say about it? It's very short. Kathleen Hallahan, Vice President. This is filed to the judge. We write on behalf of non-party John Greenstein. Mr. Greenstein is the former co-president of the Sony Pictures Entertainment Motion Picture Group. He was recently appointed the co-chairman, Paramount Pictures, and vice chair platforms. Well, congratulations, Mr. Greenstein. Mr. Greenstein has been subpoenaed to testify as a third party in the litigation between Blake Lively and the Wayfarer defendants, connection with his job duties while employed at Sony. Due to his new job responsibilities at Paramount, Mr. Greenstein's time is extremely limited. He has arranged a schedule to allow him to devote a full business day to a deposition between 8 a.m. and 4:30 on September 30th. This schedule will allow for 7 hours of testimony and 90 minutes of lunch and other breaks. We do not take a position on which side should ask questions first in the deposition. That's kind of okay. Thank you. We already had that in the emails, but thank you so much, Kathleen, for letting us know that. And congratulations, Josh, on your new job. Huge. Wow. Yeah, I love how they act that these people are so busy for depositions. They're just so busy. Yeah, I like that too. It's funny. And then we do have a notice of appearance. And I think I'm just going to look at it first because I honestly think it's just for this lawyer to be able to write this. Yeah, it's just for the lawyers to appear on behalf of Josh Greenstein. So we have that. So that was very important. Thank you so much for letting us know that you agree to an 8 a.m. and 4:30 deposition, and they don't care who goes first. So neither should Lively. It's the Wayfarer's deposition, okay? Da da da. There's a connection. Whoa, what are you guys talking about? Adam. Why Adam didn't where he works? Weird. Do you think maybe there's a connection between Lyman's brother? Why add in where he works? Yes. Why add where he actually? I wonder why. Maybe to say that like he's not with Sony anymore. I wonder when he left Sony. When did Josh Greenstein leave Sony? August 7th or thereabout. I don't know. Maybe they all wanted us to just know that he's not with Sony anymore. I don't know. It is very weird. It's kind of like building him up a little bit. Like, hey, you know what? He was the former co-president of Sony, but now he's the co-chairman of Paramount Pictures and vice chair. Okay? He's busy. He's a busy boy. Maybe that's all they wanted to do was just like let him know that like, hey, he's so busy and we already gave you one full day, so get it together. I don't know. I can never tell sometimes what people's motives are, especially in this case because they've been a little bit strange, a little bit weird. Let me try to make this a bit bigger. Here we go. Yeah, that's what I think it is, that he's like too busy to even, even filing that letter. He was probably like, whatever. But I think he probably also filed that letter on behalf of Blake Lively since they want to start the depositions early. So maybe he filed that to be like, hey, I want it to start at 8 a.m. So I'm on Blake Lively's side. So can we start at 8 a.m.? But if the lawyers for Wayfarer can't make it there, they can't make it. Like, I don't know. But you also don't know what the judge, what the judge is going to decide. Ugh. Also last night Finally, Wayfarer. Yes! A judgment on the pleadings. So this, I think, is going to come before the big one, which is going to be asked to get dismissed or fact summary or anything like that. But this is the first step for the judge to dismiss some of Blake Lively's claims. And this is a pretty big one. I will say I don't know if they rushed to write this because there was a handful of spelling mistakes, and I'm not a spelling bee, okay? It's not me, but it caught my eye a little bit. But this is really good for Wayfarer. Do I think that the judge is going to dismiss all of the claims that they've asked for in here to get dismissed? Probably not, because, you know, we've seen how it's been going this whole time. But they do make really good arguments. And I do think that some of these things will automatically be dismissed. And then after all the depositions, I think they will file another one. So this is really good. And I think this comes on the tails of them hiring those 2 new lawyers that are really good for, I'm blanking, appeals and criminal courses, white collar crime, I should say. So this is good. But basically it just starts as saying everything that, like, this is how they have to do it. Let's say everything that Blake Lively said, Gucci, it's true. Take it as fact, if you will. It still doesn't follow the law, and she still has no basis for it. Plaintiff Blake Lively's second amended complaint asserts 13 causes of action arising from alleged sexual harassment during the production of the film It Ends With Us, and a subsequent smear campaign allegedly launched in August of 2024, concurrently with the film's premiere. As shown below, plaintiffs failed to plead cognizable claims under California's Fair Employment and Housing Act, FEHA, and all their other California statutes for retaliation under Title... Someone hold me out. What's V1117? Title 7? I think. For defamation per se and false light under either California or New York law for civil conspiracy to commit the underlying torts. Lively's claims fail on the following grounds. Yeah, it was probably name dropping to the Paramount, like, look where I work now. I don't know. That was such a weird letter to even submit. Like, they already have the emails where his lawyers agree to 8 a.m. So it's like, what are you doing here? FEHA does not have extra territorial application, and thus plaintiffs' FEHA claims, the 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 7th causes of action should be dismissed with prejudice. Plaintiffs' claims for violation of other California statutes include California Labor Code and California Civil Code fail for the same reasons. Lively fails to allege an adverse employment action, a requisite for retaliation claims under FEHA. And also her second cause of action, Lively fails to plead a causal link between her complaints of harassment and the alleged smear campaign as required for retaliation claims under FEHA. Specifically, Lively fails to plead temporal proximity between the allegedly protected activity and the commencement of the alleged smear campaign or a retaliatory purpose. The SAC, in the footnote, it says it does not include a 10th or 11th cause of action, but skips from the 9th cause of action to the 12th cause of action. Yes, she withdrew some of her claims because she's going now with garden variety. Garden variety emotional stress, which if you look up the definition for garden variety emotional stress, is the same as just having a bad day at work, getting into an argument with a coworker, running late for something, or being mildly stressed. That's garden variety. That's what we're here for, garden variety stress. Lively fails to allege that she exhausted her administrative remedies against It Ends With Us, a predicate for any FEHA claims against It Ends With Us movie. Lively's defamation claims, the 12th and 14th cause of action, are barred by California's litigation privilege or New York's fair report privilege, whichever law applies. And Lively fails to plead a civil conspiracy, specifically a tort that all defendants were capable of committing, which is her 15th cause of action. Right, so don't think that she thinks that there is a conspiracy. That's what she's holding Jed Wallace on. Conspiracy in New York. All of these people, all of the people on set, all of the wardrobe people, all of the producers, all of the makeup people, all of the intimacy coordinators, all of the people, all of the producers, including the Wayfarer defendants and Jed Wallace, all were just there to be big perverts against Blake Lively. They didn't care about the movie. They didn't care about the message. No. All they wanted to do was get close to Miss Blake Lively. Are we talking? We gave her. Yeah, I don't know about Isabella. I don't know if she had her deposition, if she accepted the subpoena. That was literally just, I think, planted for PR and from Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, because then we didn't hear anything about it. It was just, that was a nutty news cycle. And poor Isabella, because she really stepped in it, you know? She opened her mouth and put her foot in it, I think, a little bit, and made it way worse. Way worse for her. Especially as a new actress, and that was her first movie, going against the director and the production, and like kind of being like mean girl behavior with the other actresses on set, and with Blake Lively specifically, and the man beater Jenny Slate, is not a good look. Nobody likes divas. Nobody likes mean girls. Nobody likes that you cannot trust your talent on set. I mean, what she's done here is very bad. This lawsuit arises from Lively's claims that she was mistreated on the set of the film It Ends With Us. So this is just going over everything that she said, even taken as fact. This is true. Everything, even if everything she said happened. During the first phase of production between May 2023 to June 14th, 2023, and unlawfully retaliated against for reporting sexual harassment that occurred on the set. Filming began in early May 2023. Yes, It Ends With Us movie and Lively. This is very important. It Ends With Us movie and Lively, through her company Blakel Inc., entered into an actors loan out agreement. And It Ends With Us movie for Lively's acting services. We still haven't seen the actors loan out agreement, okay? Which she didn't sign until way into the second phase of filming. Declaration of Aline Garofalo, Wayfarer is not a party to the actors agreement, which provides dun 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 dun. The film was shot in New Jersey, New York, where Lively resides. Lively first complained about inappropriate behavior in May of 2023. On May 26th, 2023, Lively told Sony that she wanted to file an HR complaint. Production May 2023 was suspended in mid-June due to strikes by the Writers Guild and Screen Guild. Yes, we know that. During that time, May 2023 to June 14th, 2023, Lively experienced invasive, unwelcome, unprofessional, and sexually inappropriate behavior. The SAC details the alleged incidents of inappropriate behavior on the set in paragraph 85 through 109. Before returning to production on November 9th, 2023, Lively presented a list of 17 protections for return to production as a condition for her return to complete the film. The 17-point list was intended by Lively to remedy the misconduct that Ms. Lively and others had reported earlier that year. On November 15th, 2023, the Wayfarer parties agreed to Lively's terms, and on January 19th, the parties executed a contractual rider incorporating these terms into the unsigned May 2023 actors agreement. So she didn't even sign her actors agreement all the way until after she got the 17-point list of demands signed, which already, why are you holding out on your actors agreement? That, I don't care who it is. If any actor shows up on set and hasn't signed their agreement yet, you can't work here. That's the whole point of the agreement. Actors' agreements have so much information in them, like how they can use your likeness, your picture, your photo, however they want. They can edit you however you want. There's just so many things in the actors' agreement. So the fact that she didn't sign it already tells me she was playing games from the beginning. Already. This is one of the weakest cases of SH Samantha. Yeah, I agree. It's very obvious that Blake and Ryan were having issues and have issues. And yeah, there is just so many issues with outside of Wayfarer that I think Blake brought into it. And she was going through a lot of stuff. I'll say right now, I think she was highly insecure because her husband was over there shooting Deadpool and Wolverine with Ladypool. And Blake has been waiting to play Ladypool for 10 years and didn't even get cast in it. You know, she only did the voiceover. So I think she was going through. And then here she is on this low budget indie film. I mean, where she still got paid $3 million. I don't know what kind of low budget she's talking about. Blake Lively, how much did you get paid for all your other movies? That's not a low budget. Everyone else got paid pennies compared to Blake Lively, including the director. Okay, but I think she was just going through a lot of, and I mean still is, but at that time I think she was just looking at these Wayfarer people and looking at Justin and Jamie in this very small production compared to, Deadpool and Wolverine, which is hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And she was just thinking, like, look at me, I'm here with these suppies and these losers, and like I have to take charge because I need this movie to succeed. And I think she's not right. I really don't think she's not right upstairs. But okay, we continue. On January 4th, the infamous January 4th meeting, the parties participated in the all hands meeting in New York, where, according to Lively, a plan was approved for implementation of certain protections that will be adhered to for the physical and emotional safety of Miss Lively, her employees, and all cast and crew moving forward. Production resumed on January 5th, 2024, and concluded on February 9th. Neither the SAC nor its forerunners identify any act of harassment that occurred in the second phase of filming, January 5th to February 9th. In fact, on January 14th, Lively assured a cast member that the inappropriate behavior had been stopped, and that it's a professional set and we're getting good work. On the eve of the film's premiere and release, rumors of discord on the set already swirling in the press. Accordingly, on July 31st, the Wayfarer parties contacted a crisis communication specialist to diffuse the negative publicity and protect his reputation as the film's director. On August 2nd, the crisis management team circulated a scenario planning document with a proposed strategy should Lively and her team make her grievances public. Lively contends that this was the launch of a smear campaign, and that in the weeks and months that followed, the Wayfarer parties engaged in a sophisticated, coordinated, and well-financed retaliation plan. According to Lively, the defendants mounted a well-funded retaliation campaign that sought to bury and destroy anyone that challenged Mr. Baldoni's brand. Based on these allegations, Lively asserts claims of sexual harassment and retaliation under California and federal law, breach of contract, civil conspiracy, defamation per se, and false light. The standards for judgment on the pleadings. Then they go into it's a whole bunch of law stuff, but Rule 12C permits a party to move for judgment on the pleadings after the pleadings are closed, but early enough to not delay trial. The standard for a Rule 12C motion is the same as the first for a 12B motion to dismiss for failure to state a claim, which is after this, which I think they're going to be moving to just dismiss the entire thing, depending on what they got. I think the Wayfarer people have been playing a long game since the beginning. I think they entered into this with all of the evidence that they needed, and that's why they've been able to kind of adapt and move around, because they already knew going into this that they have Lively, because the documents that Wayfarer kept, the receipts, amazing. Which makes me very also confused is if Blake Lively knew that she was sending those crazy text messages and that she was behaving this way and went over the budget and did all this wild stuff, the audacity to then create this story and put it in the New York Times and then file this CRG complaint. You knew all your skeletons were going to come out, unless she really, really, really thought that when she filed this, the Wayfarer people were going to get destroyed and not fight back, because they haven't fought back on anything. I don't know what she was thinking. I honestly don't know. But anyway, they're just going over right now that they're able to put in this motion, the judgment on the pleadings. That's basically what that whole thing is. FIHA and the other cited California statutes have no extraterritorial application. Plaintiff asserts claims for sexual harassment, retaliation, failure to supervise, and aiding and abetting under California Government Code 1290, FIHA. Retaliation under California Labor Code 1102.5 and sexual harassment under California Code. The threshold question is whether FIHA or the other cited California statutes have extraterritorial application, whereas here, the plaintiff is not a California resident and the discriminatory conduct did not occur in California. Failure, and then they say within the law of California, failure to adequately plead grounds for extraterritorial application of state law constitute a failure to state a claim on the merits. FEHA does not protect non-California residents such as Lively, where the allegedly discriminatory conduct occurs outside California. California recognizes a presumption that the California legislature did not intend to statute to be operative with respect to occurrences outside of that state, unless such intention is clearly expressed or reasonably to be inferred from the language of the act or from its purpose, subject matter, or history. Yeah, I agree with you, Victoria. I mean, Selma Hayek is her and Blake are, it's a whole other, that's a whole other bag I don't want to go down right now. That would be such a side quest. But yeah, crazy. So they're kind of saying like she can't even use FEHA because that is in California. She is not from California. That's it. Pretty much they're using all of the laws to that, saying that even though the Wayfarer people have their business in California, that does not constitute her using FEHA. The employee or employer's residency is not sufficient to overcome the presumption that FEHA does not apply when the tortious conduct is outside of California. Then they state all of these laws that support it. Sorry, I think some of you's heard that. Ugh, it's a little congested in here, okay? To determine whether there is a substantial connection, courts look to the location of where the core of the alleged wrongful conduct occurred. So then they're just going over that pretty much. A plaintiff cannot merely make a formalic, conclusory blanket recitation of ratification by a non-resident defendant to establish the necessary nexus, but must aver a factual nexus between the defendant's California-based activities and the alleged discriminatory conduct. Although the actors' agreement calls for the application of California law, a contractual choice of law provision does not overcome the California statute's lack of territorial reach. So I think if anything, with the Lively people, what they're going to argue is exactly that the agreement that they signed was in California. And I only think that because I remember Stephanie Jones and Abel, they were fighting about that too. Like Abel was saying, well, yeah, the contract is there, but you know, things like that. So I've seen that argument again by Stephanie motherfucking Jones. So we'll see if that's the thing that Blake Lively and her people fight, but I'm pretty sure they're going to fight like the contract was signed in California. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sick, but I feel like I'm getting, like, day by day I'm getting better. Now what's left is just like more annoying than anything else, you know. But hopefully it just, you know, keeps me feeling alive a little bit. Like, here we go. Lively is a New York resident. The alleged act, and yeah, she is a New York resident. How is she fighting so hard? Like, I have so many questions about this case, because how in one briefing with Jed Wallace is she fighting so hard for New York, New York, New York, but then when it comes against the Wayfarer defendant, she's using all of these California and FEHA laws in California. You're fighting one case for New York. I don't know. And you don't, it's just, to me, doesn't make sense. The alleged act of sexual harassment occurred during the first phase of production on the New Jersey set and in New York. Thus, the allegedly hostile work environment, which is the core of the alleged wrongful conduct, was not in California, but in New York and New Jersey. The SAC lacked specific advertisements of any participation or ratification of the harassing conduct by the Wayfarer or It Ends With Us movie in California. Okay. Plaintiffs alleges that Wayfarer's principals, Jamie Heath, Wayfarer's president, and Justin Baldoni, who would have authority to ratify an employee's conduct, were in New York during the filming when they allegedly committed the acts of harassment that are the subject of the complaint. Steve Soritz, described as a Wayfarer founder and financial backer, is a resident of Highland Park, Illinois. The complaint is bereft of any allegation that Soritz participated in or ratified any discriminatory conduct or adverse employment action, much less in California. In short, FIHA has no extraterritorial application. The presumption against extraterritorial applies, and plaintiffs' FIHA claims are not enforceable in this court. Oh, we'll see here what happens here. Plaintiffs' claims for retaliation under California Labor Code 1102.5 against Wayfarer and It Ends With Us movie fares no better. Courts have recognized that neither the express language of Section 1102.5 nor its legislative history indicate the California legislature's intent to extend its application beyond California borders. In O'Connor, for instance, the court rejected the notion that extraterritorial application apply. So we're going into that. They give some laws about that. The court contrasted these sections with other sections of the Labor Code which expressly provide for extraterritorial application, noting that where it is so desired, the California legislature provided for extraterritorial applications. So they're just basically saying each one that she's trying to use, it's not going to work, okay? It doesn't work because it didn't happen in California. As explained above, all the allegedly harassing conduct occurred in New York or New Jersey during the first phase of filming, and thus Section 1102.5 does not apply. Finally, Lively alleges that Baldoni and Heath violated California Code 51.9, which prohibits sexual harassment by any person in a professional relationship with the plaintiff, specifically including directors and producers. Like its sister statutes, FIHA and Labor Code 1102.5, neither the text nor legislative history of Section 51.9 indicate a legislative intent that the statutes have extraterritorial application. In sum, the lack of extraterritorial application cannot be cured by amendment. Therefore, plaintiffs' claims under FIHA, California Code 11.2, and California Civil Code 51.9 should be dismissed with prejudice. I think some of the good things that they say here is where they signed the contract to. That was like, ugh. Plaintiff's title and FIHA claims against It Ends With Us movie fail because plaintiff does not plead that she exhausted her administrative remedies. Assuming FIHA applies extraterritorially, California Government Code 12960B requires that an employee such as plaintiff exhaust her administrative remedies before filing a civil action alleging FIHA violations. Similarly, to assert a claim under Title 7, a plaintiff must bring suit in a federal court only if she has filed a timely complaint and obtained a right to sue letter. Exhaustion includes the timely filing of administrative complaints addressing the claims and parties at use, as well as the procurement of right to sue letters. Then they put in a bunch of other rulings like that. Plaintiff has the burden to plead timely exhaustion of administrative remedies, such as filing a sufficient complaint with the California Civil Rights Department and obtaining a right to sue letter. Under the FIHA, exhaustion of administrative remedies is a jurisdictional prerequisite to resort to the court. Therefore, failure to file an administrative charge before commencing suit is ground for dismissal for an action for violation of FIHA. And I think that sentence right here is where they're going to get it. They even say, like, if she didn't follow the proper steps, even, it's a ground for dismissal here. And imagine if they get a whole dismissal, even if it was like so that she can refile again or something. We have to restart. Oh my gosh, that would be so crazy. So it should be, with prejudice, okay? Similarly, under Title 7, failure to exhaust admin remedies is grounds for dismissal. Okay, so on December 20th, 2024, Lively filed complaint with the California Civil Rights Department against Wayfarer and 10 other defendants and received a right to sue letter for the named parties. It Ends With Us movie, Lively's employer and party to Lively's actor agreement and writer, is not identified in Lively's CRD complaint. This is where I was like, this is juicy. This is juicy. Okay. They're not titled, and they're the ones that employed them. So it wasn't Wayfarer, it wasn't Justin Baldoni, it wasn't Jamie Heath. It was It Ends With Us movie. That's Lively's employer and party to Lively's actor agreement and writer. It is not identified in Lively's CRD complaint, and as a result, Lively did not obtain a right to sue letter with respect to It Ends With Us movie. Accordingly, It Ends With Us movie is entitled to dismissal of Lively's 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 7th causes of action. Do you think this whole time they've been waiting like, they didn't notice yet. They didn't notice yet that it ends with us. They didn't notice yet. And then all of a sudden, here you go. Because they must have had this, thought about this. Like, hey, It Ends With Us movie isn't on anything, and we're the ones that were the employer. And they just let it go this whole time, 9 months later. I don't know, but it's kind of smart, especially if you're only talking about labor laws, which is what Blake Lively is claiming, right? In addition, as more than 300 days have elapsed since the allegedly unlawful employment practice, It Ends With Us movie is entitled to dismissal with prejudice of Lively's 1st and 2nd causes of action. Wow. The complaint fails to state retaliation claims under FEHA or Title VII. The SAC fails to plead an adverse employment action with the FEHA. This is very interesting when they go into the time lapse between smear campaign and retaliation. Title VII provides that it shall be an unlawful employment practice for an employer to discriminate against any of his employees or applicants for employment because he has opposed any practice made an unlawful employment practice by his subchapter. To establish a prima facie case of retaliation under this title, a plaintiff must show 1, she engaged in a protected activity, 2, the employer was aware of the activity, 3, the employer took a materially adverse employment action against her, and 4, causal connection between the alleged adverse employment action and the protected activity. Then they go into the California Government Code provides that it is unlawful for an employer to discharge, expel, or otherwise discriminate against any person for complaining of sexual harassment or other discriminatory conduct in the workplace. Retaliation claims under Title VII are broader than under FEHA because FEHA requires an adverse action for purpose of a retaliation claim to materially affect employment, whereas Title VII more broadly defines an adverse action as an action that is reasonably likely to deter employees from supporting a charge of discrimination. There's a little footnote here. The employer alone is liable for retaliation under FEHA. And that's where they're saying the employer was It Ends With Us movie, and they're not even named in the case. Plaintiff attempts to blur the lines between Wayfarer and It Ends With Us movie, the party to Lively's loan out agreement and Lively's employer. As noted, Wayfarer is not a party to the loan out agreement for Lively's actions, acting services, or for the rider. That's crazy. Yeah, they had to wait, but I thought they were sitting on it to file this because, that makes a good point. How can the judge go against the actual employment laws, right? But, not all adverse employment actions violate that title or FEHA, and it is important to separate significant from trivial harms. Rather, a plaintiff must show the employer's retaliatory actions had a detrimental and substantial effect on the plaintiff's employment. Plaintiff sustains an adverse employment action only if he or she endures a materially adverse change in the terms and conditions of employment. Examples of adverse changes include termination of employment, a demotion evidenced by a decrease in wage or salary, a less distinguished title, a material loss of benefits, significantly diminished material responsibilities, or other indices unique to a particular situation. Lively does not allege that the terminated, demoted, that she was deprived of any benefit of her employment with It Ends With Us movie, assert any act that may have blocked or interfered with a potential employment opportunity, or other any materially adverse changes to the terms of her employment. The SAC includes only 3 cursory references to adverse employment action, each alleging a coordinated campaign to cast Miss Lively in a false light during the publicity and promotion of the film and thereafter. Lively's claims of an adverse employment action is based solely the publication of negative publicity commencing in August of 2024, after production ended and after discord on the set spilled into the public eye. No adverse employment action where plaintiff was no longer an employee, worked at a different job, and defendants lacked control over any aspect of plaintiff's working conditions. So they're like, yeah, the job was done. She wasn't our employee anymore. That's a good argument. Lively's December 2024 CRD complaint acknowledges that her claims would constitute a what? A what? Page 62. Why is it blacked out if it's in her CRD complaint? Yeah. This court should decline plaintiff's invitation to create by creating a new standard for adverse employment actions. Plaintiff's failure to allege an adverse employment action alone defeats plaintiff's ability to establish a prima facie title or FEHA violation sufficient to survive a motion to dismiss. Then in the footnote it says, the SAC demonstrates quite the opposite. After voicing her complaints, Lively was ceded more control over the editing, not called for in her acting contract, and marketing, and ultimately obtained an executive producer credit. One might even say that Lively was rewarded after her complaints of inappropriate behavior on set. One might say that, yes. It doesn't seem like there was any adverse reaction to her. They gave her everything that she wanted. They were like, here you go, here you go, here you go. Yes, 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 yes. Biggest mistake. The SAC fails to plausibly plead a causal link between the protected activity and the alleged smear campaign. Merely pleading an adverse employment action is not enough, and a plaintiff must plausibly allege that the retaliation was a but-for cause of the employee's adverse action. But-for causation does not require proof that retaliation was the only cause of the employer's action, but only that the adverse action would not have occurred in the absence of the retaliatory motive. Lively alleges protected activity, complaints of sexual harassment, and a public relations campaign which commenced in early August 2024 at or about the time of the film's August 6, 2024 premiere. The alleged adverse employment action. The complaint, however, does not link the two, much less plead that the public relations campaign would have occurred absent a retaliatory motive. Simply put, Lively fails to plead causation. So basically they're saying she would have received the same thing with her own actions. She did it herself without even a retaliatory motive. But she fails to plead the causation between each, okay? A causal link may be shown by pleading the employer's knowledge that the employee engaged in protected activities and the proximity in time between the protected action and the retaliatory employment decision. A retaliatory purpose can be shown directly or indirectly by timing where the protected activity was followed closely in time by adverse employment action. Plaintiff fails to show the requisite temporal proximity between Lively's complaints and the alleged retaliatory smear campaign. This is what I've been saying since day one. It wasn't retaliatory. It was accountability for your actions in post-production. They weren't retaliating against you because you filed some complaint back who knows when in May of 2023 and now it's August of 2024. It's because you took over the edit, you locked them out, you fought for your PGA credit. As soon as you got the PGA credit, you didn't talk to them anymore, and then you cut them out of all of the PR, and then you had that man sitting in a freaking basement with his family and friends. That's called accountability for your actions if anything comes out bad against you, in my opinion. I don't think it's retaliatory for the complaint you made back in 2023. Like, that to me never, ever, 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 ever made sense. Like, the time has passed. It's been a year and a half. That's like going to work one day and you get written up, or you complain about something. They work it out, and then like a year and a half later, you get fired, and you're like, oh, I'm going to sue you because you're firing me because I complained a year and a half ago. It's like, nah, B, we're firing you because of the shit you've been doing lately. Do you know? It's the exact same thing, in my opinion, and apparently in Wayfarers too. But that to me was like one of the biggest things that I like couldn't wrap my head around, how Blake and her counsel really think they have a case about this protected activity that was mentioned a year and a half before the smear campaign. Yeah, I think they're definitely getting ready to get this out of here. Yeah, they're in trouble, but I mean, they're still raking in the dollars, right? And I think that's why they just keep going along with everything, just for the money. Just for the money, because it's obviously not for morals, and it's obviously not because they think they can win, because this is crazy. But they're also defending like Drake in like his case, so Drake and Blake, and their cases are almost like so similar in a weird way. So I think this law firm is trying to stand on the ground that they will, take these cases and entertainment and maybe try to create new laws through it. Like, I think they have an end game of why they're fighting for these cases versus just the money. But that's just me, because it can't just be for money. They make so much money. I think they're taking on these cases so that they can advance some narrative for their law firm in the future or something. Okay, here we go. Over a year passed between plaintiffs' May 2023 complaints and the August 2024 launch of defendants' alleged smear campaign. It was more than a year, but it's like a year and a half. And then they give a whole bunch of laws where, in other cases, I guess, an alleged smear campaign was launched more than 4 months after the plaintiff engaged a lawyer and more than 3 months after he resigned, and that was insufficient to show retaliation. And now they show so many cases where the protected activity, because of the time frame that went by, no. Some of these actions were between 3 and 6 months. It's insufficient standing alone. There was no connection even in 3 months. I mean, there's just so many. The Second Circuit has not drawn a bright line to define the outer limits beyond which a temporal relationship is too attenuated to establish a causal relationship. More than 9. In this one case, it was like 9 months. And then in the case here where it says Southern District of New York, January 30th, 2020, was 1 year, is far beyond what courts in this circuit have determined. 10 months is beyond alleged protected activity. And hers was like, what, from May to August, right? So here we go again. In this one, it was like 6 months was insufficient to establish a very close temporal proximity. Lively service to her grievance in May of 2023, and the alleged smear campaign began in August of 2024. 15 months later, to be exact. Okay? 15 months later. Even assuming that the January 4th, 2024 all-hands meeting where Lively renewed her complaints is the starting point, there is a 7-month temporal gap between her complaints and the commencement of the so-called smear campaign in August of 2024. Thus, the alleged retaliation is too remote to establish a causal link. This is good. The lack of temporal proximity refutes any possible interference that the smear campaign was motivated by a retaliatory purpose. I'm so happy that they're fighting this now, because I have been, if you guys have been following me since February, screaming this from the rooftops. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, it's not retaliatory, it's accountability. Like, hello. To the contrary, as set forth below, the crisis management public relations campaign designed to counter the already negative and escalating publicity spurred by Lively did occur in the absence of the retaliatory motive. The SAC lacks factual allegations to directly establish a retaliatory purpose. The SAC includes 2 cursory allegations of retaliatory intent. 1, that the public relations plan was embarked in retaliation for Miss Lively exercising her legally protected right to speak up about misconduct on the set. And 2, Miss Abel, Miss Nathan, Wallace, and Street Relations and others employed or engaged by TAG perpetrated a retaliation scheme against Miss Lively in collusion with the Wayfarer parties. This is insufficient to show a retaliatory animus on purpose. In fact, the SAC's own allegations show something entirely different, that the alleged smear campaign was not retaliatory, but an effort to defend Baldoni and Wayfarer against the anticipated storm of negative publicity from Lively and her team's blistering criticism of Baldoni and his work as the film's director to coincide with the film's release. Yes! Lively cites text messages stolen from Stephanie motherfucking Jones. Lively cites text messages stolen from Jennifer Abel's phone by Stephanie Jones to support her retaliation claim. These messages do not evidence a retaliatory purpose. To the contrary, they confirm that beginning in late July 2024, after the completion of production and after the end of Lively's acting services, Baldoni and the other Wayfarer parties consulted public relations and crisis manager professionals to plan how to counter an anticipated onslaught of negative publicity by Lively. Yeah, that's what I thought. You started this. You and Leslie Sloan and Ryan Reynolds. Okay? They hired them to counter. It was in self-defense. And it was about a feud on the It Ends With Us movie set and the struggle over control of the production, editing, and marketing of the film. And now I wonder is how they got all of that information. How was it leaked in the first place? If, it was all truth and it was all Gucci and it was all good, yeah, Blake Lively was leaking information. Her agents, at least Ryan and Leslie Sloan. We'll see. Yeah, I don't know how they're going to work, how Blake and Ryan are going to work after this. But I mean, Ryan's on a huge comedy tour right now, which is jokes in the biggest month of his wife's trial until they go to trial, the deposition month. He's doing he's on a road trip or something. And yeah, so crazy. May 17th, 2024, text from Baldoni to Abel that Miss Lively's husband had blocked him on social media, saying, "We should have a plan for if she does the same when the movie comes out. It would be helpful to arm us in the case. We need to refute any of the claims." Abel briefed press on the situation and stated to Wayfarer that they were armed and ready to take this story of Blake Lively weaponizing feminism. On August 2nd, scenario planning document states, "We should be prepared should Miss Lively and her team make her grievances public." Heath saying that the most important part of this is how quickly they can shut things down and place stories in your favor. A text from Abel to Nathan regarding reckless thoughts of wanting to plant pieces this week of how horrible Blake is to work with just to get ahead of it. "She's putting us through hell." On August 6, 2024, a text from Nathan. "This will be for the creation of social fan engagement to go back and forth with any negative accounts, helping to change the narrative and stay on track." Abel inquiring about the cost of social media mitigation and proactive fan posting to counter the negative. Surrounding Baldoni, planning for suppressing of negative content about Mr. Baldoni and the amplifying of negative content about Miss Lively. Defendants' concerns proved prescient when, on the eve of August 6th premiere, Lively sidelined Baldoni, instructed cast and crew member to defriend him on social media, and refused to be seen or photographed with Baldoni at the premiere. Do you think they got this from a deposition? How do they know for fact that Blake Lively, on the eve of the premiere, instructed cast and crew members to defriend Justin Baldoni on social media? I think that came out in the deposition, because they're putting it in not on information and belief. They're stating it as fact. Where Baldoni and his family were banished to the basement. Nobody puts Baldoni in the basement. Where Baldoni and his family were banished to the basement until Lively finished her pre-show appearances. The public furor, Baldoni's distress over efforts to cancel him, and Wayfarer goal to flip the narrative and repair Baldoni's reputation, and reflected in the text message cited in the SAC. Text from Abel that we can't have fans starting to guess why Justin Baldoni is left out of this stuff, helping to change the narrative. Text that the worst is over, and Mr. Baldoni would not be canceled. Concerned over threads beginning to appear on Reddit speculating about the feud between Miss Lively and Mr. Baldoni in connection with allegations of competing cuts of the film. I wonder how that happened. Who'd that come from? August 10th, 2024, text from Nathan stating that Lively effed herself by doing the unfollow thing and insisting on no photos together. Referencing August 13th text message that consisted of drafts of a story outlining Miss Lively's role in making final cuts to the film. Articles address Lively's final cut to the film. Baldoni stating on August 15th that because of the negative articles, there is no way we can just let this go. Thus, what Lively characterizes as a smear campaign began the week of the premiere and was conceived and executed to counter the onslaught of negative press spawned by Lively and her team, quell speculations about an alleged rift between Baldoni and his cast and crew, and explain Baldoni's noticeable absence from joint press events and the lack of group photos at the premiere. Yeah, and who took over the press events, the press junkets? Let's not forget about that man, Ryan Reynolds, Maximum Effort. Hello, they had no business kicking the director out of everything. They really wanted this to be the Blake Lively show. They didn't want any competition whatsoever. She was going to be the director. She was going to be the executive producer. She was going to be the head honcho on every single thing. She cannot for a second share the spotlight with anyone. And she made it certain during the It Ends With Us entire press kit that she was in charge and that she made this movie. Even the way that she was talking about it, oh my God, as a filmmaker, it just drives me cuckoo. I could never imagine getting your first big break, and It Ends With Us was going to be like the kickoff for Wayfarer, right? My God. Plaintiff, in fact, admits that the plan was not conceived to respond to any particular allegations. It was entirely about managing the public perception that Mr. Baldoni feared might follow the theoretical possibility that Miss Lively might decide to unfollow his social media accounts. Funny world that we're living in, that like an unfollow on Instagram would stir up like a whole bunch of like stuff. It's so nuts. And that's also Taylor Swift's move, remember, is to get her and all of her friends to unfollow her ex-boyfriends and stuff. It's like, aren't y'all a little bit like grown for that? Like, did you just turn 16 and stay 16? Like, so confusing. No reasonable employee should expect that the employer defendant would simply surrender in the face of litigation, which is what I think she thought, that they were just going to surrender in the face of litigation. Planning to counter potentially negative publicity and efforts to defend one's reputation in the face of highly public criticism is not tantamount to a retaliatory adverse employment action. And plaintiff fails to plausibly plead the requisite causal link, either directly or through Baldoni's effort to manage the fallout of media stories about discord on the film set and Lively's efforts to sideline Baldoni from the film's production, editing, and marketing. Lively may not like the public criticism she unleashed, but the SAC is devoid of facts that might show that these efforts to neutralize negative publicity had a retaliatory purpose. Absent a sufficient factual basis, the SAC's conclusory allegations of retaliation failed to establish a prima facie showing that Lively's sexual harassment complaint were the but-for cause of the smear campaign. As required to plead violations of Title VII or FEHA. Oh my gosh, they're really fighting it. Yeah, all they wanted to do was turn the movie into one big comedy love story joke, honestly. In my opinion, plaintiff fails to state cognizable defamation claims. Plaintiff's defamation claims fail either under New York or California law. The SAC fails to state claims for defamation per se and false light under California law. Defamation requires a publication that is false, defamatory, unprivileged, and has a tendency to injure or cause special damage. The same requirement applied to false light claims. Plaintiff identifies 5 post-litigation statements by the Wayfarer party's lawyer, Brian Freeman, as defamatory per se. Each refutes express allegations in Lively's complaint. The fact that she's even going for the opposing counsel and like tried to subpoena the entire opposing counsel, like everyone that works there, every single thing, she wanted records for every single person that works at the opposing counsel's office. Crazy. Like that already in itself, I think, is like so nuts. So nuts. Okay. Each refutes express allegations in Lively's complaint. Lively was asserting serious and categorically false accusations against Mr. Baldoni, Wayfarer Studios, and its representatives. Lively made false allegations of a smear campaign. Lively's claims are completely false. There was no sexual harassment, and Lively has stated false allegations of sexual harassment. The SAC cynically fails to note the timing of the allegedly defamatory statements. However, since the statements address the allegations in the complaint, there can be no dispute that they were made after Lively filed her claims in the course of litigation. California's litigation privilege, Civil Code 47B, creates an absolute to bar to any defamation claim based on statements made in connection with a judicial proceeding. Section 47B applies to any communications made in judicial or quasi-judicial proceedings by litigants or other participants authorized by law to achieve the objects of the litigation and for that have a connection or logical relation to the action. I mean, even having to fight that Brian Freeman was standing up for his client, to me, is absolutely crazy because, as we know, Lively's lawyers have been on CNN, they've been on TMZ, they've been to People how many times? So it's kind of like, what's going on, you know? Then they go in that the privilege is absolute and applies to all publications, irrespective of their maliciousness. They cite a whole bunch of laws in there that is going to work out for them. And then, where do we get to here? It is desirable to create an absolute privilege, not because we desire to protect the shady practitioner, but because we do not want the honest one to have to be concerned with subsequent derivative actions. I love that. It's like these laws weren't created to silence for the bad guys, but they were created also so the good guys can have a chance too. California's litigation privilege recognizes that a plaintiff cannot, on the one hand, make an accusation in a court-filed pleading, and then, on the other hand, use defamation law to silence any opposition. And that's exactly what she's been doing this whole time. Literally trying to silence Brian Freeman and silence the opponent's counsel. I mean, at this point, they have no one that can speak to them. They don't have any more sources to go to the media. She has sued all of them. There's over 10 people in the complaint, where she still has Leslie Sloan can talk for her. Her B613 guy can talk to her. Ryan Reynolds can talk on her behalf. You know what I mean? Everyone's in the complaint. Section 47.v provides an absolute privilege for all statements made in the course of judicial proceedings. Plaintiff's defamation per se and false light claims should be dismissed with prejudice. Further, the litigation privilege extends to tort, except malicious prosecution, and therefore Lively's claims based on the alleged smear campaign, including retaliation under the FEHA and Title VII, and civil conspiracy, which are based solely on the alleged smear campaign, are absolutely privileged, and for this reason should be dismissed with prejudice. Okay. I agree. New York does not recognize a claim for false light based on privacy, and the allegedly defamatory statements are privileged under New York. So if they're going with New York law, they're just saying here that New York does not recognize a common law false light invasion for privacy tort. The allegedly defamatory statements are absolutely privileged under New York law. In contrast to California, New York's litigation privilege does not extend to out-of-courtroom statements. However, New York Civil Rights Law 74 creates the fair report privilege, which provides absolute immunity from civil liability for defamation. Importantly, Section 74 protects reporting on allegations made in official proceedings, regardless of whether the underlying allegations are true or false. So we'll see here, then they go on a bunch of laws about that. These statements by counsel, to the extent that they can even be construed as defamatory, which they are not, which I agree. I don't think he said anything defamatory against Blake Lively. He was just talking about the matters that have already been filed in the court. Merely repeat defendants' assertions made in court and fall within the scope of protected speech under Section 74. Counsel's other statements concerning plaintiff's motives for making her claims are statements of opinion and not subject to a claim of defamation. That's right, Brian Freeman. Can you come back, please? We miss you in the media. Can you come? You need to show yourself again, okay? We need a little bit of your bitterness and your little sassiness, okay? But that is so true. They don't fall under defamation, okay? It is a matter of opinion. New York law grants opinions greater protection from defamation actions than does California law. When the defendant's statements read in context are readily understood as conjecture, hypotheses, or speculation, this signals the reader that what is said is opinion and not fact. Right, so everyone that even listened to Brian Freeman, which who knows how many people watched his TMZ, who knows how many people watched the Megyn Kelly show, her lawyers were on CNN. Okay, how many people, I mean, that probably more people, I would say, watch CNN. I mean, opposite CNN and Megyn Kelly, I think, are on different scales. But I mean, it's the same thing. And if you watched his interviews, you would know that he was stating his own opinions and not fact about the case. I mean, this is just crazy that they even have to argue this. But, you know, it is Blake Lively, guys, you know. Statements of heretical hyperbole, oh my God, I said the wrong, I put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. Statements of heretical hyperbole, or imaginative expression are not actionable because they cannot reasonably be interpreted as stating actual facts that could be proved false. Oh, thanks, Nicole. Well, I don't know about that, but yeah, Brian to be in public when he's behind the scenes getting ready to slay. That's true. I mean, I think honestly they've had this figured out since the beginning, and that's why when his first interview, when he said, "Just wait, we're gonna sue them into oblivion." Obviously, they didn't realize the judge was gonna dismiss all the cases. But he got all the information out there, and now to me, Blake is in oblivion, right? Like when this is over, it's going to take a long time for her to be able to come back. Plaintiff's civil conspiracy claim also fails. Civil conspiracy is not an independent tort, and its only purpose is to extend liability beyond the primary wrongdoer to other tort feasors for all damages ensuing from the wrong, irrespective of whether or not he was a direct actor and regardless of the degree of his activity. I don't think she really has a fight here when it comes to a conspiracy claim. That, like, to me, I think is pretty wild, but it's in there, so they got to fight it. To establish a claim of civil conspiracy under California or New York law, a plaintiff must plead an underlying tort that the alleged conspirators are capable of committing. Tort liability arises from a conspiracy presupposes that the conspirator is legally capable of committing the tort, that he or she owes a duty to plaintiff recognized by law and is potentially subject to liability for breach of that duty. Then they go into laws about that as well. I mean, a bunch of them. A mere conspiracy to commit a tort is never of itself a cause of action. Allegations of conspiracy are permitted only to connect the actions of separate defendants with an otherwise actionable tort. If privilege applies to the underlying claims, the privilege extends to obviate a conspiracy to commit the immunized underlying claims. I'm just going to read the footnote. Yeah, it's not important. I mean, they're all important, but that one's not. Thus, where the underlying wrongs are privileged, the immunity applies to all conspirators. Plaintiff's pleadings of a civil conspiracy is less than precise, relying solely on the conclusory allegations that each defendant committed numerous wrongful, unlawful, and tortious acts pursuant to defendant's common plea, design, or agreement. The SAC leaves defendants and the court in the dark as to who conspired with whom to commit what tort. For instance, as only an employer is liable for FEHA retaliation claims, the non-employer defendants, Baldoni, Heath, Saritz, Nathan, Abel, Tagg, and Wallace, have no duty not to retaliate and thus cannot be liable for conspiring to retaliate against Lively. As explained above, plaintiff's claims under FEHA, Labor Code, 1102.5 Civil Code 51.9, and Title VII retaliation claims fail, as do plaintiff and Title VII retaliation claims. Defendants cannot conspire to commit torts that are not actionable, nor can defendants have conspired to defame Lively, as her underlying claims are privileged. The privilege which immunizes the named defendant also immunizes alleged co-conspirators. Also, the SAC is bereft of any allegations that Abel, Nathan, Wallace, and Tagg were involved in the production of the film when the alleged harassment occurred on set. Therefore, they could not, under any stretch of the imagination, be liable for the harassment or retroactivity conspiring to harass Lively. Finally, Civil Code 51.9 applies only to those in a business or professional relationship with Lively. The SAC does not allege that Nathan, Abel, Tagg, and Wallace had any duty to Lively arising from a professional relationship, and thus these parties cannot be liable for conspiring to violate Section 51.9. These are only a sampling of the shortcomings in plaintiff's efforts to plausibly plead civil conspiracy against 10 defendants to commit no fewer than 11 torts and 2 breaches of contract. Conclusion. For the foregoing reasons, defendants respectfully request that the court enter order granting this motion and dismissing the 2nd through 7th and 12th through 15th causes of action with prejudice. Lip gloss drop. What do y'all think about this? I mean, it seems legit, right? Like, it seems like they got it. It seems like they've been waiting for a long time to come up with that. That's what I'm getting from it. Whew. I did it. I'm just gonna check. Yeah, she was able to manipulate every single thing in the film in pre-production. That's where I was like, they should have got rid of them immediately. Like, if I'm working with an actor or on set or even just in any profession, whether you're on set or not, and their husband comes and starts screaming at you for fat shaming them, you're done. What is your husband even doing here? Like, you gots to go. I don't care if you're Ryan Reynolds or not. Like, I think their biggest mistake was thinking that they didn't have star power in themselves and that they weren't going to be able to make this movie as big as it was without Blake Lively, and so they like needed her kind of in like a desperate way. But I wish they would have known that people ride for Raphael. Like, I've been riding for Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer since like forever ago. So I feel like they thought that they really needed a huge named actor, and they got Blake Lively, and obviously we know now it failed like big time. I'm just seeing if anything yet has been filed. Nothing. Wow. Not even anything from Blake Lively's team. They didn't even write another letter. That's so unlike them. I bet they're just freaking out now because of this judgment on the pleading, that they were like, meh, maybe it's okay if they go first at the deposition. Like, maybe it's okay if we back off a little bit. I don't know. I'm not sure. Right, exactly, Slot. Like, don't come to my job and make a scene. Like, the way, you know, hi, Aunt Lala, you're late, start over. No, I will not be starting over, but I will post it. I've recorded it kind of almost at the beginning, kind of not, but yeah, start over. I don't know if my voice could handle starting over. Thank you so much, Victoria. I appreciate it. But yeah, it was just like, I don't know why they thought that they can act any way like Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively any way that they wanted. And you know, if I just feel like it's because Blake and Ryan put themselves on a big pedestal and they looked down and thought that Wayfarer and Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath were nobodies, and they needed to take control of this film to make it the best ever because Blake was not able to have another failed movie. It would have been horrible, you know? Oh, thank you so much, WQ. Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird thing for me to be here on Saturdays and making a movie, oh my gosh, making a video. But after I saw the filings late last night, I was like, how can I not share this with everyone? I mean, it's juicy. It looks like it's going to be a battle all weekend. Honestly, still nothing. I can't believe it. It's so weird, and all of this just for a deposition to see who goes first or not. Like, oh my gosh. And you know, this just makes Blake, if Blake is really trying to work on her reputation and like win people over, you would think that she would try to be nice. Like, she would try, like, when you read those emails from her lawyers and like they're like, nah, not cool, not cool. Yeah, it's big news. This judgment on the pleading, I wonder how long it's going to take the judge to come back for. I mean, we're still waiting on the New York Times file. They want to get out of this real quick, which I hope he does not grant, because I want Wayfarer enough time. Ryan Reynolds asked for attorney fees a long freaking time ago. That hasn't been ruled on. Leslie Sloan hasn't been ruled on. Blake Lively asking for treble damages and attorney fees hasn't been ruled on. Jed Wallace hasn't been ruled on. But you know what's crazy is when they talked about Van Zandt, he came back 1 hour later. 1 hour later, he made a ruling yesterday on Van Zandt. But all of this other stuff, we haven't heard nothing. And I'm just saying, if he is in the pockets, if Ryan Reynolds is deep down there in Judge Lyman's pockets, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm definitely bracing myself. Next week is going to be wild. Yeah, it's going to be nuts. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, you can just start. Okay, that's good. That you could just start from the beginning. I forgot that you can do that. That's awesome. Yeah, next week is going to be, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, at some point it has to calm down, right? Before they go to trial. Like, it can't just keep going like this. It's been like, what, since December 20th, December 31st, really? Yeah, no, I haven't talked about that, but Did you guys hear that Ryan Reynolds was calling Blake Lively a... No, not calling her anything. He was telling her to F off. I heard that yesterday, but I'm not sure. Like, the videos that I heard on it, I don't know if it's true or not true, like if there's audio recording or anything like that. So let me look into it. But apparently, yeah, apparently Ryan Reynolds told Miss Blake Lively to F off while he was on the phone call with like somebody trying to get a comedian to do a tour. No way. Ryan Reynolds is going to be on Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy, you had everyone backing you for free speech. Oh, this is going to be so bad for him. Why would he do this? Wow. Yeah, Jimmy Kimmel announces star lineup for Brooklyn Week. Tom Hanks, Ryan Reynolds, Bruce Springsteen. Oh, that's bad. Yeah, they're definitely going to, I think, appeal. I mean, they brought those two new lawyers on who are specializes in appellate court, as well as the other one I said, white collar crime. And that's why I think Van Zandt's freaking out right now. That's so... Yeah, he told her to F off. Yeah, what a huge disaster for Jimmy Kimmel. What is he he just got all of his fans back, and now he's going to have to turn all the comments off on those videos. He's going to get so much backlash for it. And I still am so unsure why everyone is still bending over backwards and catering to Ryan Reynolds. This guy has received more awards, more medals, more recognition, more anything in the past, like, since this litigation started, than he's ever had before. I've never seen so much of Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively than when this litigation started. Like, they're really, like, Ryan's really out there trying to pretend to be, like, the nice guy so that everyone forgets about all the other stuff, you know? There's a blind item that talks about how Ryan Reynolds is sick and tired of paying her legal fees and how she has not contributed $1 of her own money. Well, isn't it kind of like, you're married, so what's mine is yours and what's yours is mine? Yeah, I've never really had like a problem with Ryan Reynolds. I didn't really, like, as a Canadian, I admire how far he's got. Even now I'm still like, damn, you really did that. But now I know how you did it is probably not in a way that I morally align with. But I never really watched any of his movies. Like, Deadpool is not really like my thing. I mean, I'm into like dramas and horrors and thrillers, so it's like big action movies like that aren't like my thing, but I love it, and it was good for him. Like, I never had anything against him, but now I'm kind of like, oh, y'all are monsters, power hungry monsters. Okay. And now I think it's more than obvious. Like, he is just, he needs to stay relevant and stay on top and cling on to Hollywood as much as possible, because the truth is coming out, and the truth's been out, and people are not effing with him anymore, you know? Yeah, they're all fluff stories. Exactly, Kate. Hi Australia. Yeah, it's all dangling carrots over here so that you don't look at what's really happening over here, you know? Yes, Marvel Geek. That's awesome. Yeah, we'll see what's next. Like, what's next for him? Like, I don't know. But nothing's been filed yet in the courts, guys. So I'm going to go. I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to go eat some lunch. And yeah, I think just watch some movies tonight. I'm watching this new show on Netflix. Is anyone watching it? Let me know what you think. It's with Jason Bateman. What's it called? Black Rabbit? Something. Oh yeah, Black Rabbit it's called. It's with Jason Bateman and Jude Law. I haven't seen Jude Law since like Closer, since like back in the day. Talented Mr. Ripley days. You know what I'm saying? Jude Law and Jason Bateman And Jason Bateman directed. Anyway, I'm only on the second episode. I know I didn't binge watch. Maybe tonight though, because I'm gonna eat my face off and hang out on my mattress, melt into my mattress. But Jason Bateman directed it, starring Jason Bateman and Jude Law. So far, I'm only in the middle of second episode. And it's good. It's like a slow burner. Kind of has to do with like robbery, restaurant life, family ties. It's real good, and it's on Netflix, so check that out. Nicole, I'm in the Charlie Kirk hole. I can't watch anything. Yeah, so I've been doing a little. Maybe I'll muscle up the courage to put that out next week, but I have questions when it comes to Charlie Kirk. Of course, a lot of you know that I supported him. Obviously didn't agree with all of his things, but our mutual understanding and love for God was like, just I would watch him for that. And the way he kept bringing it to the teachings always made me like, just keep questioning and everything. And I have serious questions because now they're saying there is no autopsy, but now they're saying the autopsy, but they didn't, there was no exit wound. I don't know. There's just so much going on there. All I need to know is Candace Owens needs to protect herself because she's been coming out with a lot of stuff. So let's see. Jason Bateman was my teen crush, and now he's old. My old crush. Yeah, well, join the club, okay? Join the club. But anyway, I'm going to go, guys. I love you so much. Thank you so much for joining me on my first live. I was so nervous. I was like, I don't even know if it's going to work. I don't know if the sound's going to work. I don't know what's going to go on. I don't know what's going to happen here. Oh, my gosh. But it was actually really, really fun. So now that I have it all configured, and I know how to do lives, I'll definitely be on more often, but I'll give you guys some heads up and stuff, and we'll make it like a regular thing, okay? Thank you so much, Lena, and thank you everyone that was here. So much love. You already know. I love you so much. I love this community, and I love all of you. Thank you so much. So yeah, I'll talk to you soon. If anything happens, I'll be putting it in the community, so you can at least see screenshots or stay updated. But if not, then I will definitely see you Monday. Okay, take care of yourself. I hope that tonight you're able to even just take 5 minutes out, give yourself a big hug, love yourself a little bit more. And yeah, I'm definitely going to go and do that to myself, okay? So I love you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Let's see if I know how to get out of here. Bye, guys.